At exactly p.m., the sky over northern Israel turned orange, 100 rockets launched simultaneously from Lebanon, and at that exact same second an Iranian ballistic missile entered Israeli airspace from the east, 2 countries, 2 directions, 1 coordinated strike, and for the next 5 hours it did not stop, Iran's. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps called this something they have never called an attack before, a joint and integrated operation with Hezbollah. 5 hours, 50 targets, 2 fronts, 1 coordinated assault, and buried inside this attack a weapon that 120 countries have banned, a weapon that even if you intercept the missile still kills. I'll show you exactly how it works, but that's not even the most disturbing part, because there's a country feeding Iran the exact satellite coordinates of American radar systems, helping them aim, and it's the same country that's been testing these exact tactics on another battlefield for 3 years. What happened last night was not just an attack, it was an audition for a new kind of war. I need to tell you this story develops every hour. After tonight's Hezbollah attacks, Israeli officials are considering hitting civilian infrastructure targets in Lebanon. If they do, this war enters a phase nobody comes back from. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because when that decision drops, I'll break it down immediately. 12 days ago, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. On February 28, 2026, Israel and the United States launched surprise airstrikes on multiple sites and cities across Iran, killing Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and other Iranian officials, starting a war aimed at regime change. The target wasn't just Iran's nuclear program, it was the Supreme Leader himself. Ali Khamenei was killed, and what followed was chaos. Iran then launched hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles at targets in Israel and at U.S. military bases in Qatar, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Oman. 10 different countries came under fire. The entire Middle East became a battlefield overnight, and then Hezbollah opened a second front. Hezbollah's launch of missiles at Israel was the first time in more than a year that the militant group has claimed an attack. From regime change strike to two-front war in less than 48 hours. That is the context for everything that happened on day 12, and what happened on day 12 made everything before it look like a warning shot. Now let me walk you through exactly what happened on the night of March 11th. Hezbollah terrorists launched over 100 rockets against northern Israel in a single barrage on Wednesday night, a security source confirmed. Air raid sirens sounded in numerous western Galilee communities and the coastal city of Nahariya due to a suspected drone infiltration from nearby Lebanon. Sirens erupted across Haifa, the Galilee, the Golan Heights, and then kept going. Alerts reached Yaknamil at 50 kilometers from the Lebanese border. That's not border. Skirmish range, that's deep inside Israeli territory. Hezbollah's reach just doubled. And while Israel's north was under bombardment, Iran struck from the east. The Iranian ballistic missiles fired at central, northern, and southern Israel came during the Hezbollah rocket barrage. Hezbollah, meanwhile, fired some 150 rockets at northern Israel. Now connect the sequence. Hezbollah said in a statement that the attack on central Israel targeted the Glilot base, the headquarters of the 8200 military intelligence unit in the Tel Aviv suburbs. That is not random fire. That is a coordinated to-front assault targeting Israel's military intelligence headquarters. Hezbollah overwhelms northern defenses while Iranian ballistic missiles aim for the brain of Israel's intelligence apparatus. That is a strategy. But here is the detail that stopped me when I read it in an IDF press briefing March 10th. Israel stated that 50% of the ballistic missiles fired at Israel during the conflict until now have been cluster munitions. 50%. Let that sink in. Here's why that is terrifying. The warhead of such missiles opens up while descending and scatters between 24 and up to 80 smaller munitions with around 2.5 kilograms of explosives in a radius of around 8 kilometers, according to the Israel Defense Forces. Read that again. One missile, up to 80 bomblets, 8-kilometer dispersal radius. And here's the part that breaks everything. If cluster munitions are released before the missile is destroyed, there is little that can be done. Israel's Iron Dome system is geared toward intercepting smaller rockets fired from short ranges and lower altitudes, but it isn't designed to destroy the clusters once they've dispersed into dozens of bomblets. That means Israel's most famous defense system has a blind spot, and Iran found it. Iranian attacks on Israel have employed cluster munitions almost on a daily basis, an IDF spokesman told the Wall Street Journal. And it gets worse, the bomblets that don't explode. They sit there in playgrounds, in parking lots, on rooftops waiting. The March 9th strike also damaged a children's playground in the central Israeli city of Rishon LeZion. Critics worldwide argue that cluster munitions kill or maim indiscriminately, with unexploded bomblets remaining dangerous long after their use. Some have pressure triggers. Step on one and it detonates like a landmine. Others have timers, designed to explode hours later when rescue workers arrive. An arms expert said the design seems to scatter submunitions so widely as to suggest it was designed purely as a weapon of terror. That is not a precision weapon, that is an area denial weapon, and it is landing in suburban Israel on a daily basis. Coincidental. And then on March 11th, Iran itself removed all doubt. The IRG released a statement calling this a joint and integrated operation with Hezbollah. Not sources, not leaks, Iran itself, on the record. Hezbollah has fully joined the war, and it looks like they are now very well coordinated with Iran, said Kobe Michael, a senior researcher. At the Institute for National Security Studies, speaking from his bomb shelter near Tel Aviv. Coincidental. And then on March 11th, Iran itself removed all doubt. The IRG released a statement calling this a joint and integrated operation with Hezbollah. Not sources, not leaks, Iran itself, on the record. Hezbollah has fully joined the war, and it looks like they are now very well coordinated with Iran, said Kobi Michael, a senior researcher at the Institute for National Security Studies, speaking from his bomb shelter near Tel Aviv. Most of Hezbollah's rockets and drones are launched simultaneously with the Iranian missiles, he said. That debate is now dead, and Israeli defense officials are warning this barrage is just the beginning. The next 24 hours will significantly shape the rest of the war, but here is what almost nobody is covering, the question. Everyone should be asking, how did Iran suddenly get this accurate? Russia is helping Iran with advanced drone tactics from its war in Ukraine to hit us and Gulf nation targets in the Middle East, according to a Western intelligence official. Shah drones, designed by Iran but mass-produced by Moscow for use in Ukraine, have been unexpectedly successful in penetrating the air defenses of Gulf nations. Russian intelligence sharing with Iran has until now been reported as general assistance with targeting. Specific tactical advice would indicate a new level of potentially lethal support. CNN reported at the weekend that Russia has shared imagery from Moscow's sophisticated network of overhead satellites with Iran. Connect the sequence. Russia provides satellite imagery. Iran identifies radar positions and communication nodes. The Iranian aerial attacks appear to be more precise than in the 12-day war between Iran and Israel in June, and more focused on radar sites and communication posts in particular. The Iranian tactics also appear to resemble Russia's air campaign in its war with Ukraine, with swarms of drones hitting infrastructure followed by ballistic missile attacks. Radars first. Communications second, heavy warheads into a blind environment. That is not Iranian innovation. That is the Russian playbook from Ukraine repackaged. For the Middle East, an Iranian drone struck a makeshift facility housing US troops in Kuwait on Sunday, killing 6 US service members. And here's the irony nobody is talking about. Kyiv has sent drone interception experts to the Gulf region to share Ukrainian expertise in stopping the relatively cheap shades, which can cost $30,000. Think about that. Russia teaches Iran how to USE the drones. Ukraine teaches the Gulf how to stop them. The same war, different battlefield. Now let me tell you why this war hits your wallet this week. The Strait of Hormuz has experienced ongoing disruption since February 28, 2026. Iran's IRG issued warnings prohibiting vessel passage through the strait, leading to an effective halt in shipping traffic. Tanker traffic dropped first by approximately 70%. Soon afterwards, traffic dropped to about zero. The IRG spokesperson's exact words? Expect oil at $200 per barrel. Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important energy choke point that carries about 1/5 of all crude oil, according to 2 people familiar with US intelligence reporting, actual naval mines in the most important energy choke point on Earth. Member countries of the International Energy Agency unanimously agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil into the global market, the largest release of emergency oil stocks in history. That has never happened at this scale. When the IEA makes that move, it means the global energy system is in crisis. But even that might not be enough. The record IEA strategic stock release will add some much-needed volumes to the market, albeit only closing up to a quarter of the 20 million barrels per day supply gap posed by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, said Saul Kavanik, energy analyst at MST Marquee. 1/4, that's it. And it's not just oil. Fertilizer represents one of the biggest downstream risks. Roughly 1/3 of global fertilizer trade transits the Strait of Hormuz. If those shipments are blocked during the spring planting season, it could wreak havoc on food inflation. Your petrol, your electricity, your groceries, everything connected too. Energy is about to spike. That is not geopolitics. That is your family's budget this month. And here is the devastating contradiction nobody wants to address. Speaking at the Pentagon news briefing, General Kane said missile attacks have fallen 90% and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the war began. 90% reduction. 5,000 targets destroyed. Sounds like victory, right? And yet on day 12, Iran and Hezbollah launched their biggest coordinated attack of the entire war. 90% down, and the largest barrage still came. Iran was not running out. It was sequencing, with Iran's ballistic missile launcher fleet heavily degraded. Iran is likely hoping that the use of cluster munitions will increase the number of casualties caused by each individual missile. Fewer missiles but deadlier payloads. That is not a force in retreat. That is a force adapting. Iran has told mediators that it will only agree to a ceasefire if it includes an American guarantee that the US and Israel will not attack the Islamic Republic again in the future. That is not the language of someone preparing to surrender. That is the language of someone prepared to fight indefinitely. The regime has not been changed, it has been reinforced, and this war has no off-ramp. Here's what you need to watch in the coming days. In response to Hezbollah's rocket barrage, the IDF resumed strikes on Dahieh, Beirut, and is considering attacking Lebanon's civilian infrastructure. If that happens, this war enters a completely new phase. A Western intelligence official said that China's support for Iran was concerning but declined to provide details. China has condemned US-Israeli attacks against Iran as unacceptable but has not publicly indicated any willingness to help its ally militarily. If China moves from words to weapons, this is no longer a Middle East war. This is a global realignment, and the EU's top diplomat summed up the bigger picture so far. There is only one winner in this war: Russia. It gains new resources to finance its war against Ukraine as energy prices increase. It profits from the diversion of military capabilities that could otherwise have been sent to support Ukraine. Drop your prediction in the comments. Does this escalate, ceasefire, or spiral into something bigger? Here is the truth nobody in Washington or Tehran wants to say out loud. 12 days of strikes, 5,000 targets destroyed, the supreme leader killed, and Iran's response. The biggest coordinated attack of the entire war. This war was supposed to end the regime. Instead, the regime just launched its most sophisticated military operation in 45 years. The regime has not been changed. It has been reinforced, and nobody, not Washington, not Tehran, not Tel Aviv, has a theory for how this ends. Subscribe. I'll be here when the next chapter breaks.